What's up, everyone? Namman here, and we're going to be talking about a modern deck today. A kind of combination of modern deck slash ban list announcement slash history lesson. So without further ado, let's jump into our discussion about Lurrus. Alright, so today is March 7th. We've had an announcement that Lurrus is officially banned in Modern, in Pioneer. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. When you look at the most popular decks that are in Modern, a lot of them are running Lurrus as a companion. They tried to adjust the companion rule and make it so you have to pay 3 mana and put it into your hand and do, oh, maybe this will help balance it a little bit. Yeah, sure, okay, fine, whatever. But we even know that even after they did that, they had to quick ban things, especially Lurrus. Like if we look back on May 18th in 2020, right after the set came out, it was about a month or so after Ikoria came out, they had to ban Lurrus from Legacy and Vintage because it was so much of a problem. And now we're seeing it banned in Modern and Pioneer as well. I mean, their discussion of it and their information was like, hey, we get it. We know that it restricts deck building. And even after Modern Horizons 2 has come out, it still hasn't gotten any better. Nobody is choosing to play with any newer cards, and they're choosing to keep this most optimized 2 costs or less in your mana cost, or in your creatures, in your spells, in your artifact. Doesn't matter what it is. Now we can't play any of those bigger stuff because Lurrus is just that good of a card, and there's no reason not to be playing it. And it was like 40-50% of the meta, I think they were saying, that it's showing up in decks, at least on MTGO, on the online side of things, that tournament side of things. It's all the time there. Now that things are getting a little bit better, we're going to start seeing more paper events. Maybe we'll see a little bit shifting. But I'm going to be talking a little bit about Grixis Death Shadow in today's video. Lurrus was such an integral part of shaping how the modern meta has progressed and changed over time, and it has sped up so much because so many decks care about having 2-cost stuff. We might see a slowdown in the format, but really it's going to be hard to say. All right, some things are still just so good even without Lurrus. I mean, having that recursion and being able to replay stuff that dies was the big draw for it, of saying this effect is just so powerful that I don't care. Right? I don't care that I am only running 2-cost stuff. So we're going to look at what a current version of Death Shadow looks like. We're also going to look at what Death Shadow looked like, at least the Grixis version, because there are 3 different versions, right? We've got our Grixis version that you see here. Here's the old version. Here's a new version, right? You've got your Jund version of Death Shadow that was running Tarmogoyf. Still game plan, I'm focused on Death Shadow. Then there was also the Esper version that tried to pop up here and there. Started to see a little bit of play as people were trying it out, and this was after Modern Horizons 1 came out, is because Ranger Captain of Eos was printed. So Ranger Captain, you do have to have double white to cast it. 1 double white when Ranger Captain of Eos enters the battlefield. Search your library for a creature card, mana value 1 or less. Reveal it, put it to your hand. Basically it says, here is a Death Shadow tutor. Go find your Death Shadow with this. Seems pretty cool. Also, it has the ability to sacrifice it, and your opponents can't cast non-creature spells this turn. It doesn't really see much play. The Esper version kind of fell off. Now it's really just Grixis and Jund. But all right, here we go. Here's our current version of Grixis Death Shadow. As of today, this is kind of the most popular version of it. Let me see if I can catch in that Mishra's Bauble that's there. There we go. So, companion, we're running Lurrus. Yeah. So, basically saying, hey, you can't have anything in your deck that costs 3 or more, except for Lurrus. Lurrus is the only one. But during each of your turn, so you may cast 1 permanent with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard. So, that is really good, especially when you're running lots of low-cost effects, right? So, very, very powerful. This list is running Kolaghan's Command in here so that you're like, wait a minute, that is more than 2. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why this is. Regardless, Kolaghan's Command is a great card. Maybe it was sideboard. Who knows? Ignoring that fact. Death Shadow's in here. Dragon Rage Channeler, amazing. Ragavan's in here. And Korax is in here. You are probably going to be seeing for sure are Death Shadow, our Dragon Rage Channeler, and our Ragavan staying in the package. Makes total sense. They're super powerful. We're very aggro. Get out. Let's go. Dragon Rage Channeler, having that Delirium, powerful creature, being able to surveil, throw things I don't want into my graveyard. Awesome. Love seeing it. We've talked about this list before, how it's going. The way the spells work, we might see some adjustments, right? Drown the Lock we see is a nice flex card, countering a spell, or being able to destroy a creature, right? Both of these are great. Removal, Unholy Heat. Most of the time we'll have that Delirium to deal 6 damage. Seems great, right? You would see Lightning Bolts. We've got our Disruption, Thoughtseize, Inquisition. Makes sense. We're getting some draw effects off of Expressive Iteration. It's also filling our graveyard for doing things with Drown the Lock, with Unholy Heat. So it all ties well together. Then, of course, there's Mishra's Bauble in here. So all of this makes sense. But what did Grixis Death Shadow look like before Lurrus? How different was it? Now, it's hard to be able to look back and say, okay, because things like Dragon Rage Channeler didn't exist. Things like Ragavan didn't exist, right? These are newer cards that are very, very powerful cards and have adjusted the way that we're playing Grixis Death Shadow to kind of fit into this Delirium, as well as to have an early threat that is constantly able to keep pressure on our opponents. Now, originally, Death Shadow looked very different. You look at this and you go, there's a 7 cost in here? There's a 5 cost in this list? What is happening? What is going on? These are cards that have fallen by the wayside because of the speed of things and because Lurrus is just that good, right? The decks are so very, very, very fast that you go, well, do I have time to wait to be able to fill up my graveyard to cast Gurmag Angler? Maybe not. But maybe we can get back to it with this sort of old style of play, right? You have cards in here, you go, okay, well, you can see it's very old in the way that we're running things like Thought Scour, we're running things like Serum Vision, right? You don't really see Serum Visions at all in our Grixis list. Pretty much the Grixis Death Shadow that we were just looking at is mainly running just red and black. There's blue for Expressive Iteration and Drown the Lock. Otherwise, and I guess technically Dress Down, but otherwise it's not blue. It's straight up just kind of red-black aggro style, and you're running a bunch of fetches and shocklands to adjust your life total. Right? You do have the option to bolt yourself or do things like crazy things like that, but for the most part, it's a red-black aggro deck. Where this one is very different. I mean, you can even see, look in the main where it says Snapcaster. That is a complete indication of how different the modern meta was when Snapcaster was actually a good playable card, and lots of decks were like, man, Snapcaster Mage is really good, guys. You should be running it, right? Control list, Death Shadow list. And this was a little bit more of that sort of control-y aspect to it. But the whole thing about Street Wraith, and the reason it's gone, is because of Lurrus. Otherwise, Street Wraith is an amazing card, right? It's being able to cycle it by paying 2 life helps to accelerate our ability to get out Death Shadow. That's one thing that we really care about. It fills up our graveyard with fuel to be able to cast Gurmag Angler, and it replaces ourselves to help dig us 4 more answers. So Street Wraith, an amazing card. I'm very interested to see if we see some adjustments to Grixis Death Shadow and it shifts a little bit into this older style where you can be able to play Gurmag Angler. I mean, we look at like this current list, right? Okay, Dragon Rage Channeler, it's going to be a 3/3 with flying, right? Has to attack. Cool. Ragavan, 2/1. Death Shadow is going to be big. It's fine. Korax, 6/6. Takes a little bit to be able to get him out, but the discard effect is pretty nice. Where Gurmag Angler, a 5/5. It's going to be very, very hard for people to deal with this. It's a little bit slower, but that's why people were running things like Street Wraith, like Mishra's Bauble again, like we're running our Thought Scours, 4 of in here. I'm drawing cards, I'm filling up my graveyard. I'm Thought Scouring myself because I'm guaranteed if I cast Thought Scour, that's 3 cards in my graveyard. Thought Scour, and then whatever 2 cards that I mill. All right, I go, oh, okay. If I've cast a Street Wraith, bam, that's 4 cards. If I cast a Mishra's Bauble so far, that's 5 cards. That means Gurmag Angler only costs 2 mana for a 5/5. And that's the way that this list ran back in the day, right? We would do these disruption spells, assuming that maybe we didn't have a Thought Scour on turn 1, right? Maybe we were able to get an Inquisition. Maybe we were able to get a Thought Seize. But being able to fetch, shock, boom, Shriek Wraith. Oh, I'm already starting the game at 15 life instead of 17, right? Oh, now I've got other ways to be able to accelerate out my Death Shadow. All right, it's a speed race now. How quickly can I get Death Shadow out? How quickly can I get Gurmag Angler out? Because those are my 2 main threats. And my goal is to start to beat you down and at least deal 10 damage to you. Because if I can at least deal 10 damage to you, then I have this OTK potential, this 1-turn kill potential with this lovely card called Temur Battle Rage. So it's 1 in a red, target creature gains double strike. And of course, if that creature has 4 or greater power, that creature also gains trample until the end of the turn. So being able to say, well, I've gotten you down, I've done 10 damage to you. Now I can sit here and Gurmag Angler, attack, boom, Temur Battle Rage, 10 more, you're dead. Death Shadow, oh, it's a 6/6 Temur Battle Rage, you're dead. All right, you have this kind of boom explosiveness that the deck doesn't have currently. All right, and part of that is the way that you're building your deck. All right. Only having a Temur Battle Rage just for Death Shadow isn't worth it, right? You're not going to want a Temur Battle Rage, Dragon Rage Channeler, a Ragavan. Caraxa is not going to be a mainstay on the battlefield to consistently hit one of these. So it's not worth it. We had to adjust the way that the deck plays. But I love that OTK potential where you can just kind of blow somebody out. All right, it's very, very powerful. Also, if you're playing against people that are running a lot more Drown in the Loch, you know, that's a lot more cards that they're going to have in their graveyard to be able to get rid of Gurmag Angler with a converted mana cost of 7. So it does have a little bit of protection against that in some ways. Now, people are running that Unholy Heat, all right, dealing 6 damage. Going to be killing that off, but still, this is the old style of playing. And maybe has that potential to come back, right? We know that Snapcaster Mage, not really the way to play anymore. We've seen it. It's awesome. Has a little bit of control aspect to it. But in this like way of the meta, in the way of the Ragavans, it's not worth running Snapcaster Mages, right? Being able to get treasure is really good. Accelerates our game plan. Exiling cards off my opponent's library that could disrupt their game plan. Very good. So being able to have Ragavan in here is going to be consistent. We're not going to be changing it. I think that's going to be normal in what we're going to see with Death Shadow. But it's going to be interesting to see where it's going to go. Are things going to start slowing down now that Lurrus is gone? Right. The next deck that we're going to be talking about, not this week, but next time, is going to be Hammer Time. How is Hammer Time going to be shifting after this? Because Hammer Time has been 100% all in on that Lurrus gameplay, right? It really pushed the deck over the top because of the way that it plays. And we're going to worry about that on a later date. But yeah, that's our dive down memory lane. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing a little bit about how different the modern meta was 2 years ago and how different it is now, and where Death Shadow might go going forward is going to be really interesting to see, and especially some of these other decks. So let's keep our eyes peeled. We're going to be highlighting a lot of these different decks and see what they can do now that Lurrus is gone. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching, and I'll see you guys next game.